I'd like to introduce our presenter, which I have a huge girl crush on her. Always, I was like, Michael, why would you do this to me? My heart's like beating. So Leka, I met her a couple years ago when I had just first started, so about 4 or 5 years ago, and just been following her journey. It's very inspirational to me what she has done, and today she's going to talk a little bit about her journey going from corporate to where she's at now, over 100 million in her investment portfolio. She is the president of Rehab It. I was gonna call it Rabbit. See, I'm a little nervous. Rehab It Homes, and she also hosts a really incredible networking event. Also, and it's monthly, right? The Real Estate at Work. Also very similar to this. A lot of like community investors, and she always has a really interesting and very current topic for investors. So with that, we have Leka.
Thank you. Do you have a clicker, or do you want me to click? Or I'm Leka, and I have been doing this a really long time, 11 years. I've been in Seattle, flipping homes, grinding, hustling. Every deal has been a project and an experience. And so when Michael asked me to speak today, I was like, okay, I'm going to teach you some of my learnings, mostly bad, so that you don't make the same mistakes. Is that okay? I'm not good at presenting slides, so I'm going to keep this conversation more open. If you have questions, feel free to ask me right away. I want this to be as interactive. If you don't get something, just say, hey, what does ARV mean? Okay? And I'll try my best to explain it. So who is an investor here? Most of us. Who has never done a deal, wants to learn and start doing a deal? Okay, some people. Cool. Anyone here just for the free food and happy networking? Okay, cool, awesome. So I moved to the country in 2006 because I met a guy. We got married, and he said Seattle's a really cool place. Such a lie. Because I came here in December, December 27th, and it was cold and raining, and it snowed so much that year. I was like, what am I doing here? Because I grew up in India, sunshine 365 days, and then I came here, and I was like, this is bad. But I soon fell in love with the city. I got a job at Nordstrom corporate, and it just aligned with what I was doing back then. So I was in fashion and merchandising for a good 8 years before I transitioned to investing in real estate. The reason I transitioned was one day I was literally driving to work, and I heard a radio ad for a house flipping company, and I was like, what is a house flip? We don't do that in India. We just break it down and we build from scratch. So I was like, this is cool. You can actually keep the existing house, and then you can give it new purpose. So that intrigued me. And so I went to a seminar, because back then we didn't have these cool meetups. So I went to a seminar, and I got hooked. I joined them, started to learn, quit my job, and ended up buying my first house to flip in 2014, 3 months after I quit my job. I lost $5,000 on that deal, but I could have lost $100K. And so it just taught me so much about showing up to work, moving the needle, and just trying to create something, even if that meant you were going to lose money, lose your time, whatever it was. So fast forward to today, I have done over 100 flips. I do own a sizable rental portfolio. I was just having a conversation with someone, always hire a property manager. Thank you, Michael, for that. And I do host a networking meetup, and I partner with Israel too. And we started the meetup in 2018, never missed a month. And it's just been really great to provide, because I feel like a lot of my growth and success came from having a really robust network. And what I wanted to do was give back to the community, that same platform where people could come, network with each other, and really elevate their own experience investing in real estate in Seattle. So yeah, we'll go through a whole bunch of other things. My why, I have 2 beautiful boys, 12 and 8. That's my husband. That is the entire Seattle group that came to the Bigger Pockets conference when I emceed the conference a couple of years ago. So it was truly special for me. You'll recognize a lot of Farida's back there. That's cool. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And then those 2 are 2 of my mentors. Charles is the founder of Certain Lending. Israel is part of Certain Lending. One of the coolest, smartest people I know. And James is a huge personality in the Seattle area. I flipped 100 homes. He has flipped thousands of homes. So he's just been my mentor, my guide for the last 11 years. It's been amazing. And my crew, love my crew. Okay, so this is something I want to touch on really quick. Who is just starting out? Rookies in the room? Okay. When you first start out on any venture, whether you want to build your own company, you want to go buy a house to flip, you want a rental property, you want to invest in something else, you want to go buy Bitcoin, you want to invest in the stock market, options trading, whatever it is, you're going to have friends and you're going to have allies. Okay? When I first started this, I had a lot of friends. And my friends said, you're going to lose all your money. If you go look at all the online forums, everybody that flips a house goes bankrupt. It's just not for you. That's a lot of risk. It's high risk, barely any reward. Okay? Which is when I decided I actually needed allies. Because my allies would say, I've done this, you can do it too. Or, I have not done this, but knowing you, you can definitely do it, right? So I say it's great to have friends and friendships, go out to happy hour, have drinks with them, but then if you really want to crush it, go find your allies. And you can in rooms like this. This is where you're going to find that person that's going to push you and make you strive harder to go find your next deal, go find your capital, go do the things that crazy people do. So just know that. Have friendships, but really have allies. So because my first house was a single family flip that I bought, and I bought it sight unseen, I bought it from a wholesaler. Do you guys all know what a wholesaler is? Someone that finds you deals. Gabe here is amazing at that. So you go find a deal, right? The wholesaler brought it to me, and he said, you can't walk this house till you actually close on it. And in some universe, I thought, OK, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that. So then the wholesaler also said to me that it was going to cost me 60 grand to fix up, not this house, but that house. And as I started walking my contractors through it, it was more like 120 grand. And I was like, cool. This is not a cosmetic rehab like he had told me, but it was a full gut. And having done that project with no experience, I walked into the room and I literally asked the contractor why the drywall wasn't up. And he's like, that's because the house is not plumbed, it doesn't have electrical, it doesn't have HVAC. So I was that green. I did not know anything about real estate construction, none of that. I didn't grow up around it, I was super green. So then what I did was I just showed up to the job site every single day, and I was like, okay, what happens next? So let's just learn, one step in front of the other, and I learned. And so I became really good at not cosmetic rehabs, but full gut renovations. The ones that you take everything down to the studs, and you rebuild with structural engineers, architects, seismic retrofitting, the what's what of remodeling a house. New construction didn't excite me. I did build a DADU, but it wasn't fun. I was like, oh, that was easy, right? So I actually liked the challenge of repurposing an old house. So this one, for example, Israel funded it. I bought it from James. This is what it looked like. Really cool house. This was in Shoreline. Who knows Shoreline? Who's done projects in Shoreline? So you know that the permitting sucks, right? The city takes forever. So I was like, why pull a permit? Lo and behold, we got red tagged. Another one of my great experiences. Like, I was like, okay, let's just deal with it. And an amazing thing happened. The inspector walked the house because we were about 3 months into construction. He walked the house and he's like, wow, you guys did everything to code. Why didn't you just pull permits? I was like, I was taking my chances. Anyway, so bought this house for $650, rehab budget $250K. The whole time was 14 months, really long, because we got red tagged. And then I financed it with a hard money lender, used a JV partner, we'll get to that, and then funded the holding costs. This is the after. Pretty snazzy. And I sold it for $1.24 million. Okay, just going back there. I made 140 grand profit on that. But it wasn't my first six-figure profit because, and I'll tell you about my first six-figure profit. So year one, I did 1 flip. Year two, for some reason, I thought I could do more. And I didn't do 2 or 3, I did 10. I know. And then I was like, let me just buy anything. If someone brought me a house and said, this is a flip, this is distressed, I was putting my name on it, I was buying it. So year two, I did 10 flips, and I made 100 grand. That's $10,000 on a flip. All my money went in paying taxes. It was awful. So then year three, and you have to do this. Like each time you do a project, you've got to deep dive after it's done and say, okay, what went right? What went wrong? What can I do better? Because if you don't learn from that, then there's no point in doing this. Because every project brings with it its own challenges and experiences. And you have to go forward and say, okay, what can I not do from that experience that's going to make me better? And so from that experience, I said, okay, I am not going to just do quantity. I'm actually going to focus on quality. And that changed everything. So I went from, I just need a 30K profit on my spreadsheet to, I am not touching anything unless there's a minimum of 100K profit. And we're talking 2015. Because I'm like, it's not that I want to make that money. It's just that I want to have the room to fail. And so I did 2 homes the following year, and I made like 250K profit. So I went from doing 10 flips and hardly any money to 2 flips and making a lot more money. And so that's just become my deal now is if someone brings me something, like today I passed on a deal that had 85K profit. I know it's a pretty snazzy profit to give up, but I'm like, I know how quickly that profit can just disintegrate if one thing goes wrong. So I'm like, at least a minimum 200K spread, or I don't want to do it. So that actually was the house that I made my first 6-figure profit on back in 2016. And that's also the deal that I worked with your dad on. Israel's dad is a contractor. This is the second house that I made another 6-figure profit on. So I was like, I finally cracked the code. I have my buy box, I know what I want, and this is what I'm going to go for. So super important, especially if you're starting out now, even if you've done a few projects, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and what does that buy box look like? Like if someone says, what locations do you focus on? I don't focus on a location. I focus on the bottom line. If it's a 200K profit deal in Tacoma, I'm in. If it's a 200K profit deal in Bellingham, I'm a little less likely in, but I'm in. So it doesn't matter the location. It matters more how much profitability is in that deal. This is another house I did. It was a 5-month rehab, over 100K profit. This was the smallest house I've ever done. It was a 530 square foot little house in Renton. Massive profit. Tiny house, big profit. Yeah.
Is that true for somebody who's just getting started also to focus on the profit or just buy anything?
If you can, yes, but also you've got to pay your dues. So you might buy a couple deals where, you know, someone says, okay, this is a 35K profit, 50K profit, because you just want to get your feet wet. But I'm also a big believer in like going and finding mentors so that you're not making all those mistakes. You're actually learning from someone else. So
you suggest to partner with somebody as well? Or?
partner with someone good, someone that's done a lot of deals, that has seen the market in the ups and the downs. Yeah.
So if you look at the like I've done HouseHack before, but like if you don't have like a ton of money to bring to a partnership, like what is that? Why would a partner bring you on? If you don't have money, if you don't have a ton of money, you don't have a lot of experience. What is the partner here at?
A million other things. One of my favorite partners I've ever had was not my capital partner, but he heard my Bigger Pockets podcast when it came out in 2020. It was the older one, and he such a crazy story because what he did was everybody that heard the podcast reached out to me and said, hey, can you help me with this, that, and the other. He just reached out to me and said, I heard your podcast. I heard you're looking for this specific kind of deal. So I built you a bot that's going to scour the MLS for these deals, and it's going to send you these deals directly to your inbox. And it wasn't even the MLS. It was Redfin. And everybody has access to Redfin. It's a free website, not for just brokers, right? So that's what he did. And I was like, who is this kid? I want to have coffee with him. So when I had coffee with him, he became one of my best hires. Like, he just would help underwrite my deals, help me raise capital. Then I introduced him to Charles, who's the founder of Certain Lending. And Charles then put him on his fund. And he now makes so much money that he's like, I don't want to live in Seattle. I'm going to go live in a penthouse in New York. And so that's what he's doing, and we still work together. So do not discount yourself. There's a lot you can do. Even if it's taking photos of the project, even if it's running something for the investor, just be like, hey, I want to learn, and tell me how I can be a resource. Mm-hmm. So give value first, and then ask. You stole my punchline, but these are all some of the flips that I've done over the years, and each of them has a story. Each of them has been so fun to do. This middle one is actually a photo of the before of the house. So before I tore it all down and remodeled it, that house we actually just did a walkthrough in, but I bought that house for $835K back in November 2023, went through a really rough permitting process. One of the best flips I've done. Some of you, who was at the walkthrough? Yes. So some of my best work, like I really designed that to the hilt, and I had so much fun with it. And we went pending today for almost $2 million. Wow. Thank you. Yeah. But it doesn't happen overnight. Like, I wish I could say that was my first project. It's not. It was like my 120th project. So.
Now, can you give us the numbers for like a lot of people that weren't there? Because that one was so really cool.
Okay. That one was, okay, I bought that for $835. I put $400K to fix it up. My holding cost was $160,000 because I did hold it for about 16 months. Selling costs about 8.5% of the selling price. The selling price was $1.925, and my profits around $320K. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. So how do you do this? A lot of people ask me, how do you find deals? How do you flip them successfully? How do you scale? Like, if you have done a few projects, how do you take that to the next level? So these are just some of the things that I did myself. Diversify your investment strategy. But I don't want to confuse you. I think you should be really good at doing one thing. And when you're good at doing one thing, then you can start diversifying. So for me, that was, how do I flip a house? Then how do I find rentals? How do I stabilize them? How do I find property managers? Then I became a real estate broker, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to help other people do this. So I think there's a method to the madness, but the more you can diversify, it's going to help. The more income streams that you have, it's going to help with challenging market times like we're in right now. Really, like, talk about what you're doing. Even if it's one deal, if you can educate and talk about it, have a strong social media presence. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I think everybody needs to have LinkedIn because LinkedIn is just people that show up. It's like working, but you don't have to go to an office. It's just online, and it's everywhere. So I strongly believe in having a great LinkedIn presence over Instagram, over TikTok, over Facebook, whatever it is, but LinkedIn for me. But also have all these other, like Instagram's fun, TikTok is fun, so definitely be on those. But just talk, educate, do as much of that as possible so that if someone then is picking between investing between me and someone else, they're going to pick me because I have more to lose because I have a bigger presence, right? So just make yourself, be that person. Optimize financing and capital raising strategies. There's so much money out there. So how do you raise from the right people? You don't want your investors to be like nitpicking, like, what happened? Are we going to hold this house for another month? Whatever it is. Like, why didn't you put this yellow tile in the kitchen, on your kitchen backsplash? Like, that's my favorite, right? You want someone to actually just be willing to learn, give you the flexibility to do what you want to do. So there's a lot of capital raising strategies that you just go after. And then optimize your financing. If you can actually get a conventional loan for a distressed property, then go for it. If it's hard money, then great. Like, talk to Israel, talk to other hard money lenders, and pick what's suitable for you. Sometimes it's fast money, sometimes it's expensive because it's fast, but sometimes you just want it to be the cheapest possible because your spread is thin. So optimize for that. Build a super strong network and a team. I don't hire anyone into my company, but that's the beauty of real estate, is that you can actually find the best resources that don't have to be hired by you. So I have acquisition brokers, I have disposition brokers, I have wholesalers, I have hard money lenders, transaction coordinators, escrow, stagers, photographers, like I have them all, but I don't have to hire them. And then stay adaptable because the market's forever changing. Like if you only invest in the stock market, then this is a bad week for you. So if you can diversify, even within real estate, if you're going to do $2 million project, then do smaller projects that are just a sure sale. So just diversify. Okay, any brokers in the room? Okay, not a lot of brokers. I'm going to run through this really quick, but brokers should invest because if you don't go to work one day, then you're not making a paycheck. So if you are making money, if you are selling a lot of deals, just consider taking that income and buying a rental property or house hacking or partner with investors. There's so many different ways. Fix and flips, invest in a syndication, do 1031 exchanges, all of that. This is my meetup group. We've had some really amazing people come. We've had some great speakers. My goal is to really teach and also build that platform. So when people come, they network. I've seen deals happen right in front of me, like I'm sure Michael can say that too, when two people, literally a broker and a buyer, came together and they said, I really like that house, and the broker's like, I'm the listing agent. And then they ended up making a deal together. It's awesome. Or a fix and flipper comes to the meetup and there's a wholesaler that has an amazing deal, and then they end up buying it or partnering on it. So definitely build your network. And if you do all those things, then this is what growth looks like. I bought this 12-unit apartment building in West Seattle, which is an amazing neighborhood. Took the rents from $8,000 a month to $22,000 a month. And it's been a fun project. And this is part of my diversification. I bought this house back in 2018. It looked like that. We flipped it or renovated it and then decided to build another ADU. So this house right now went from a 3-bed, 2-bath to a 10-bed, 6-bath. it's an Airbnb, so this is my foray into short-term rentals. And last year as an Airbnb for the first year, it made about 96 grand, or no, 169 grand in gross income. So pretty amazing. And then I also have an event space, which is where we host all our meetups, but it's also been really fun to see weddings, birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, completely different, but also it's a cool way to make passive income. And then it also gives me great opportunities to be in front of really good crowds like you. I've hosted some crazy events. That's me in front of 3,000 people at the Bigger Pockets conference. This is us walking down the aisle. The best ever conference is one of my favorite conferences if you're in multifamily or commercial, because no other conference comes anywhere close to the best ever conference. Whether you want to buy a duplex, fourplex, or $100 million 1,000-plex, the best ever conference is where you can find money, deals, people, inspiration. It's just a great conference, and I got to MC that last year. And this year, I'm on a TV show, which is really fun. So if you guys don't know, they shot a TV show for fix and flip investors last summer. It's James Dana's show, and he picked 10 investors, and we each went through a whole shoot cycle. So this was a project that I did with them, and it should air in the next month. So please watch out for that. It's called $1 Million Zombie Flip. And there's some really sweet investors from Seattle featured on it. So if you haven't watched the last few episodes, go watch it. You can find it on YouTube. It's on A&E. And it's just really funny because everything in the show was fake. It wasn't even my house. So when I got yelled at, when I didn't do something right, it was all fake. They even made me be a first-time house flipper. So I'm not sure how my episode will turn out. But you can watch the others. I'm sure they're better than mine. So this is something that is so true because we're all solving problems, right? Every day we're solving problems. So if you tell yourself, yes, I solved a problem today, then think about it. You are paid exactly for the size of problem you solve. So if you're solving really big problems, like my Ballard house was a big problem, it's a really big problem, and I solved it for 16 months. Then the paycheck is massive. I could spend the same 16 months in solving a small problem, like a 400 square foot house in Tacoma. And I would only get paid, I wouldn't get paid 300 grand for that. So pick your problems wisely and just be really good at solving them. And that's how you get in touch with me. Yeah. Do we do Q&A?
Yeah,
Questions? Yes.
What were some of the problems with the Ballard house, and then what did you do to solve it?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I could write a book on this. So first, I had a really bad architect. My main architect was on paternity leave, so I ended up going with this architect. I actually wrote a post about him on Wari, so if you're interested, you should go read it. Basically, he didn't know what he was doing, and so it should have been a quick 1-month permitting timeline, and it ended up becoming 6 months, and I was nowhere near my permits. And so we ended up parting ways, and I went back to my old architect, and he got a permit for me in six weeks. So I lost 7 months of holding costs on that, so almost 80 grand, plus the permitting fees itself. So it's a lot of money. But then we got our permits, right? We started renovating the house. First, it was the basement. Our inspector came, walked through, and said, we need a seismic retrofit, which is earthquake-proofing the whole house, because it was a pretty sizable renovation. Then, while we were doing that, they also said, oh no, the basement's leaking, so we had to do a waterproofing. And then we had to insulate the whole basement. And then I decided I wanted a garage in the back, and that meant I had to actually cut the curb, put in driveways, and then build a garage. And that took a good 6 months to get permitted. The gas meter was under the deck, and PSE, the utility company, made me move it 4 inches and charged me 11 grand. And they said between 1 inch and 10 feet, it's like 11 grand because they're actually bringing you a new meter and doing all the work. We moved the panel from one side of the house to the other side of the house, so we needed a new strike on the roof and also a new exterior panel, and that took about 25 weeks. No joke, 25 weeks. And the list goes on. But it was one of the most satisfying projects I've done, because you look back now and I'm like, wow, like I did all the open houses and the buyers walked in, and each time someone walked in, it took their breath away. Gabe just walked in, and it's just exciting to see their response to it. Yeah. I hope that helps answer your question. Okay.
So how long did the project last?
16 months. Yeah. Yes.
So going back to your first few flips, how were you sourcing those deals? Was it through a mentorship, or did you?
No, it was through my network, and I didn't have a network back then. So I would call Craigslist. I would call brokers that listed distressed properties. So I started investing in 2014, and it was a super unique time because the market had just started to go up. I would go to the auctions and on the courthouse steps, and my competition would bring cash in a briefcase. And so I would like this house, they would like the house, and they would give them a briefcase of cash, and I didn't have a fucking dime to myself. So it was a big challenge. So if you ever think this is not the right time to start, that's where I started, and my competition was fierce. People didn't care what they were buying. Everything was so cheap, so they just bought everything. And they obviously, fast forward 10 years, the market has gone up like 150%, so they made a killing on it. But here I was with no experience and no money, trying to do what they were doing. So I just went out, told the world that I wanted to flip homes, and that's why I bought everything that I was getting. Because first I wanted to establish that I was a real estate investor and I was buying deals, which is why I bought the ones with the lower margins. But even to this day, like I don't do direct mail campaigns because I'm not good at it. But I do network with brokers, investors, wholesalers, people. Yeah. Yes.
How did you scale your construction business? So like a lot of people I feel like struggle with contractors and finding good contractors. So curious your experience there.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I've worked with a lot of different contractors. So every project in the beginning had a different contractor. But honestly, if you can get over your differences and continue to work together, then you can actually find that amazing partnership. So back in 2016, I found my one contractor and we did like 20 projects together, and he was amazing. And then he was not, which is when I went out, and this is a pro tip for anybody that's looking for a contractor. Instead of going to other investors or your friends and asking them for referrals, you should go to your subcontractors. So electricians, plumbers, these are true tradesmen, and they're really good at what they do, and they're really proud of what they do. So if you go ask your electrician to recommend a contractor that he is really excited to work with, someone that pays him on time, shows up, does the work right, and does it to code, then they're the ones that are going to give you those amazing referrals. So that's how I found my current contractor, and we worked together for about 8 years now, and we've done over 60 projects. Yeah. Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for your talk. Like, it's my first time here, so
Yay.
your talk was super inspiring.
Awesome. Thank you.
I just had like 2 questions. One is like, are you an agent yourself? Like, you flipped a lot of homes.
Yes.
Like, did you eventually become an agent? And then my second question is, you mentioned like it's really hard in some places like Shoreline to get permits.
Yeah.
Like, while you were doing this, like, do you have them in your network now? Them as in like
the city? No. I will say this though. When I was having my second child and I was actually pregnant, I could go to the city and they would do everything for me. So if you want to buy a fake bump, then yeah, that's it. No, but yes, I am a broker, but I only became a broker 5 years after I started investing because I wanted to just learn to invest first. But I recently joined a super luxury boutique brokerage called Real Residential, and we're focused on selling $5, $10, $15 million homes, and it's so fun because I walk in the house, I was like, nothing needs to be fixed up. It's not distressed. It's kind of bittersweet because I'm always like, man, I love walking into shitty homes, but so that's, I guess, the new thing that I want to do is sell luxury real estate. But I do love finding investment properties for my clients. And then you don't, unfortunately, get to make friends with the city people because every city has different inspectors and they're not very friendly or social. So yeah, you just have to. Yeah.
Sorry, just follow up. Like, do they sometimes, you said like some projects take like 16 months or
Yeah.
a fairly long time. Is it because of the construction or is it because of the permit?
Both. Yeah. Sometimes it's the permitting that takes forever because there's corrections over corrections and someone in your architect team is not doing it right. And then a lot of times it's the construction itself. Like there's so many unforeseens, like my Ballard house had so many unforeseens that I can't push my contractors to go faster because I want them to also do it right. And honestly, like that's what can get you the higher price is if there's a lot of easy ways to cut corners and just, you know, do a shoddy job and get the house on the market. But it takes more effort and more skill to do it right, even if that means your profit is shrinking. But more often than not, if it's a well-built, well-constructed house, you're going to get that top dollar. Yeah. Yes.
Can you touch on when you like to use capital partners and how you structure those?
Yeah. I started using private lenders for my flips about 9 years ago, and I still use them. So it's pretty much on every project because I'm doing 7, 8 projects at a time, and each project is an average of $1 million. So if you take that, there's the down payment, there's the holding costs, there's utilities, insurance, taxes. It's a lot of capital for you to have. So while I don't recommend that you over leverage, if you have that holding cost secure, then you can go get a private lender to invest in your projects. And the way I like to do it is I like to teach people. So I meet a lot of people like at events like this. It could be someone that's at Amazon or Microsoft and they just want to learn how to flip a house. And so they partner on my deals. And then that kind of gives them a vision into the entire life cycle of a flip. And then it empowers them to go do their own projects. And those are the only kind of people that I want to partner with. Like, I want them to learn while they also make money. Yeah. Yes?
At what point did you, from when you started, did you transition from buying properties in your own name, or listed as second property, to buying properties as an LLC? Can you do the cost-benefit analysis on why you made that transition?
Yeah, I mean, I started my company first, and it was an S Corp, and I've been buying properties in, like my flip properties in my company from the get-go. I never bought it personally. The only times that I actually own or quit claim into my personal name is if I want to get a conventional loan, because most conventional lenders will not lend something in an LLC. So then I have to convert that into my own personal name. And sometimes you also have to pay excise tax twice. So it's just more of a CPA question and how they can structure that. But I recommend if you're doing an investment property and it's a short-term hold, definitely put it into an LLC. And it's not that much more expensive. It's just more paperwork.
So is one LLC for all of your properties?
It's one S Corp for all my flips, and then each of my rental properties is in its own LLC. Yes.
So you touched on this point. I mean, you got to buy the house at a really good price, right, to make your numbers work.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, what are the best ways that you've found to, I guess, get deals? Like, what are your best?
That's a great question. So you can do BRRRR deals, which is like you buy, you rehab, you rent, you refinance in any market. And I did it last year when interest rates were super high. I bought a house to fix up, and then I built a DADU in the back. So the front house, and I'll give you guys the numbers. The front house, I bought the house for $560K. I fixed up the front house for $125K, and it sold for $675 or $700. I built the DADU. I spent about $300 building the DADU, and then it appraised for $725. And when it appraised for $725, and I sold the front house, I could essentially get all my cash out. So I got $500K cash out, and then I got a loan for $500K at 8.25% interest. Thanks to Israel. And so I feel like you need to refinance that for me, otherwise I'm going to speak about it every time. So, okay, tomorrow we're going to work on that. But my rent on the DADU is about $3,300. So I'm not making cash flow, but I get to hold a DADU, new construction home, and hold it for appreciation. But every month it's going to cost me $300-400 to keep it until tomorrow when Israel's going to refinance. But then, yeah, that's one great way to build equity, even in this.
But I guess like to finding those deals, like, are you finding mostly through wholesalers, or are you still finding yourself, or like do you think?
Wholesalers, but there's also amazing properties that are available online on the MLS. Like I got a duplex for a client of mine, which was listed for 1.25. We got it for 1.2. We closed on it yesterday. And then if she fixes up both of them, we can condoize and sell it each separately or together for $2 million. And her profit on that is about $200K. And again, Israel financed that. But there's so many different ways. I had another client that wanted, the younger couple, worked for Amazon and Microsoft, that wanted a duplex. They wanted to live on one side, rent out the other, basically HouseHack. So the way that I found them a deal was, I found them a duplex. They live upstairs. They're renting out the downstairs. But then the side yard is massive. It's huge. And also the backyard is like 10,000 square feet. And now they can build like 4 townhomes or DADUs or whatever. So they literally get to live in the house and then construct in the backyard. That's a huge exit value for them. So and I found that deal on the MLS. So work with the right brokers. Like Michael's really good at these kinds of transactions. And he's able to find them for his clients. So just find the right brokers, I guess, to work with. So I'll tell you guys about this like fun story. A couple months ago, this woman reached out to me. She sent me an email and she said, I have this situation. I have a house. It's in Redmond on Education Hill. Do you know someone that wants to buy it? And I said, I live on Education Hill. I'm 4 minutes away from this house. I will buy it. So then we went. The story behind this was, it was her niece's dad had died in the house like 6 months ago. The house was going into foreclosure and they needed a quick, fast close. So I walked it, fell in love with it. I was like, this is like such a great area. Ended up buying it. She wanted $1,050,000. We landed on $1,082,000. And when the appraisal came back, the appraiser appraised the property as is for 1.25 and a future value of 1.8. And this deal literally came to my inbox. And I asked her why she brought it to me, and she said because she had come to one of my walkthroughs. So the more education that you can give to people, the more people will give back to you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Oh yeah, in one of your slides you mentioned a JV.
Yes.
Percentage you paid somebody. What was that about?
Sometimes when I bring on capital partners, depending on the size of the deal, I give them an equity stake. So if they bring in 15% of the deal, like that's the down payment, holding cost, whatever, then they get 15% of the equity. I do that less because if, God forbid, something went wrong with the deal, then they don't get anything. So it's more high risk, high reward. But if it's a nice, fat, juicy deal, then I'm more open to it. So I just want to protect the investor in that case. Yeah. And you can do a JV partnership. Like you can actually open an LLC between the two partners. I don't recommend that. I'd rather you have a promissory note or be on the deed because it's just so much more complicated tax-wise. But yeah.
for people that are like nervous about ARVs, like, do you have any advice there? Is it working with a good broker, of course, but
Yeah.
Just how to estimate that?
Get really, okay, people that, if you're buying a project, like how do you calculate the exit value of that project? You get really good at comping properties. So when I first started, I didn't know the neighborhoods because I didn't grow up here. And so for me, it was even starting out like, where's Bellevue, and where's Redmond, and where's Kirkland, and where's Seattle? Like I didn't know that on the map. So I got really good at just studying the map and comping properties. So I feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it. I would say just, get on these websites, see what homes are selling for. The other thing is you have to go get on wholesaler lists. So like if a wholesaler says, oh, I'll put you on my buyer's list, I would get on these wholesalers lists, not to buy the property, but just to kind of keep track of the property. So then I would get this property in my inbox. A year later, I would go back, flag these properties. I would go back and see what the property sold for, what the investor did to it, what the after looked like. And so that way I got really good at, okay, what should the exit value be if all this was done to the property? So a lot of comping, yes.
Do you pick out all your finishes, or do you have a designer on your team?
No, I pick out all my finishes. And no two homes are the same. I'm good at it. I think I've made some mistakes, but for the most part, I'm good at picking out finishes. But if that's not your strong suit, definitely hire a designer, because that can make or break your investment. Like the quality of the home could be A+, but then if you put the wrong backsplash with the wrong tile and the wrong floor and the wrong paint color, then it's a disaster. So, yes.
On that note, what do you feel like are your unique superpowers where you really excel, and then where you feel like you don't have as much strength that you've like brought on partners or help or resources?
Yeah, I think I'm really good at property or at project management between multiple areas like contractors, lenders, stagers, brokers. I'm good at that. And I'm good at design. So like I'm good at coming up with not just the trim, the light fixtures and whatnot, but even coming up with a solid floor plan that's meaningful across multiple buyers, multiple generations. Because I've done homes sometimes where it's a very niche buyer, someone that, like, I've built a house one time where you have to go down to the house via stairs. So like, how would someone with a stroller or an older person in a wheelchair like get to this house? That was super dumb. So I'm like, okay, how do I not make those same mistakes? And so I'm really good at coming up with a meaningful floor plan that's also not expensive to create. And where I think some of my opportunities are, where I'm bringing on team members, is direct to seller marketing. Like I have no interest in sending out mailers and talking to sellers. I just don't want to convince someone to sell their home to me. I've gotten better at that with more experience. I'm like, okay, fine, this is what your house is worth. This is what I need to put into it. This is what I have to make. So this is what I can pay. But initially, I was so bad at that. So just knowing that you have strengths and weaknesses and you can't be good at everything, you have to like bring on other resources to help. And I'm not good at construction, like investor girl Brit. I can't even build a wall. So I hire people for that. And I've always hired a full-blown general contractor. I've never done one project myself, but for the most part, I like having a general contractor that knows construction way better than I do. Yeah.
Which area do you think will see most appreciation? And is there a particular housing type that will make more profit than others?
Given what's happening to our zoning, with all the multifamily zoning and the high density zoning, honestly, a single family would really appreciate, because in 10 years from now, we're going to be looking for land. No one's going to have a big lot, backyard, so just focus on the bigger, the homes with the bigger lots. Bellevue is seeing a huge growth, way more than Seattle, They estimate about 80,000 people moving to just the little tiny Bellevue pocket, and about 30,000 new homes, single family homes. So, I mean, I think that's huge growth. Whereas like you see around the country, people are moving away from, people are moving to Bellevue. Even Seattle, people are moving away from Seattle, moving to the east side. So, yeah, Farida.
Okay, I have a couple questions. One is like, what's your next year and a half looking like for investments?
Yeah.
And two, as a mom, as a wife, and also just I've met some of your family at one of your meetups. Just like, how do you balance the whole thing and being a developer queen in the area? So, what's the balance there?
Okay, so for the next year and a half, at some point, like in the last 5 years, I would say I switched off from doing every deal, every project, working with every kind of person to what makes me happy, and only focusing on just doing the things that make me happy. So waking up and saying, okay, I have this amazing day ahead of me, and it's because these are the people I want to work with, these are the people I want to see, these are the projects I want to do. So just being really picky about, and you can't afford that for a long time. So you just have to know when to make that switch, because you have to really grind and do everything you can for a long time. But then I've got really picky with the projects I do. So I'm going to do a few flips, but it has to be like incredible, large, 300K profit type flips.
Here in Washington, or like Seattle?
All in King County, some Tacoma, maybe some Snohomish, but mostly King County. I also, like I said, joined this luxury brokerage, and I want to focus on super, like ultra high net worth buyers and sellers, and then just, you know, focus on like super cool, big builders, good construction type, you know, sales. How do I manage it all? I freaking lose my mind. Half the days that I'm making dinner for my kids, I'm also underwriting deals, but they're now used to it. But I just try to be present when I'm with the family. I leave for Korea on Saturday, and it's because I just want to take the kids away from a spring break. So we do travel a lot, which is our like break from the rut. And my whole family's, most of my family is back home in India, so I got to go see them once a year, once every other year.
Do you use a specific project management software?
Excel spreadsheets. You don't need anything fancy. I've done a lot of renovations with just using Excel spreadsheets. Of course, I have bookkeepers that then put all that information into QuickBooks. But for my own everyday workflow, that's plenty sufficient. My whole underwriting is on one spreadsheet, and it's a deal analyzer spreadsheet I built 10 years ago, and I just tweak it. And it still works like a charm. I can underwrite any deal within 30 seconds if I had all the numbers. And then every deal that I do, whether it's an apartment building, a land subdivision, a DADU construction, or a single family flip, I just built this super simple expense sheet. And every time I pay someone, it just goes on the expense sheet right away. It's one thing that I've learned to do religiously. I may drop the ball on a million other things, but the one thing that I do is if I pay someone, it goes on my expense sheet. And even though I have bookkeepers that can just pull a report and say, this is how much you spent on this project, for me, it's like my Bible, is knowing that information. I can tell you on any day how much money I'm going to make on a deal because all my numbers are in that spreadsheet.
Just tagging on to that. So when construction is up and going, who's kind of making sure that you're staying on time, and how are things, like how are you taking on benchmark and all of that throughout that process?
That all sadly depends on, it all falls on you. I don't have a boss. I don't have anyone to say you have to stay on time, otherwise you're not going to hit the market or whatever. Like, it's all me. It's very self-driven. I think any investor can tell you that it's all self-driven, like you have to be accountable. Otherwise, you're always going to work for someone else. So, yeah, the market kind of defines when my projects have to be done, and then I have to make sure it happens.
I had a question on when you're working on a project, at what point or do you decide whether you want to do a house flip or do you want a long-term rental or a short-term rental out of it? Is it just about like interest rate play or how do you think about it?
That's a great question, and it mostly depends on your acquisition price. If you're buying it for anything, I don't know, 60 cents and under, then it's going to make a great long-term rental. If there's a shorter margin, a smaller margin, like 65% to 70%, then it's going to be a flip. But sometimes it's also market-driven. Like say you put a house on the market, it doesn't sell, and you have no option but to convert it into a long-term rental. So, and it's only happened to me once with the DADU, but luckily for me, I had a lot of equity in that deal, and it was a cash-out refinance. But for the most part, you just, when you go into the deal, you kind of know what your exit's going to be. Yes.
So when you determine that it's going to be a long-term rental, do you change what you put for finishes?
100%. Most often, like if I go into the project thinking it's going to be a flip, I'm going to be putting flip finishes in it, because it's only when I can't sell something that I convert that into a long-term rental. But if I go into it knowing that it's a long-term rental, yes, 100%. You put LVP floors, you put durable stuff, right? Tenant-proof the damn house. And it starts with, if you're removing the walls, like the plumbing, the electrical, the cadets that you put, the vents, right? All my rental properties have like the water guards on the tubs, because I don't want tenants to just like splash water outside. So it's like little things like that, but I would never do that in a luxury flip. Luxury flip will have hardwoods, just really sexy features. In a rental property, I'm not putting like cool wall murals and whatever, wood panels, and it's just super basic. It's durable, but also it's cute. It's somewhere where the tenant wants to come and actually live in it and not keep moving. Yeah.
Now that you have a portfolio, do you use your portfolio as collateral so that you don't have to put any of your own cash? And is there a discount by asset type?
Yes, I love that question. The question is, if you have a rental portfolio, can you use that as collateral to either get a line of credit or get capital to do your own other projects? Yes, 100%. Because as real estate investors, the one truth that I can tell you is you're never going to feel like you have capital, because all my capital comes into my bank account and then it goes towards buying another deal or another project. So I know this about myself. I'm going to be so rich when I retire, but I'm never going to retire, which means I'm just going to die poor. And so my rental portfolio is what saves the day, because I have some high equity projects which I could then go to. Have you heard of Flynn family? They cross-collateralize loans. So I'll give you a little rundown. So Israel, say, finances your fix and flip, but you need the down payment, like 20% down, and you don't have capital for that. You can then go to Beth from Flynn family, who will actually finance in the second position, but she's going to collateralize that with your existing portfolio. So if I have a house or a triplex that has $1 million of equity, she can take that equity and then just give me a line of credit. It's going to be high interest, like 13%, but if I pay the 13%, but I'm making 20% on the deal, kind of is a wash, or I can actually make a profit. So yes, that's how I cross-collateralize. You can also get HELOCs. It's just that rates are so expensive right now, and it's all income dependent. So yeah, there's a million ways to use that.
So you'll get a loan from the Flynn family and also a loan for the construction part, but the down payment part, you get it.
From Flynn family. I would rather pay her, on her loan, I'd rather pay 13% than give up 15% of my equity to a different investor. Thank you for having me. Thank you.